Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury. My name is Samantha McCoy. I'm happy to be here this morning. I'm glad to see the folks here in the fellowship hall. We are glad for everyone who is online as well. And in a few moments, we'll begin greeting each other. But we like to remind ourselves that the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury has been in existence for 200 years, and we've been in this property, goodness, maybe like a little over 15 years now. But with all of that in mind, we also like to gratefully acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the Paugussett people. So like I said, my name is Sam McCoy. I'm currently serving as the chair of our Sunday Services ministry team. I was on the board of trustees for a few years, and for a long time I was also on the RE ministry team. So if you hang around here long enough, you end up doing a variety of things. But we are so glad you're able to join us this morning because you really are an essential part of our services and our celebrations today. Whether this is your first time, your 10th time, or your 1000th time, we are stronger because you are with us. If you're new to our community and joining us online, we invite you to introduce yourself and where you're from in the chat box as you feel able. And at the conclusion of today's service, you'll have a chance to participate in a breakout group for conversation and making some stronger connections with others who are online. And if you're here in the fellowship hall, we do hope that you'll stay afterwards for some conversation and coffee and other connections. We are one people of many origins, many sexualities and genders. We're all growing, all learning, and all loved. Just as you are welcome here. For today's announcements, I know that we want to highlight March 12th. There's going to be some very important and crucial work being done that day after the service, and it has to do with revisioning our religious education program. And that's not something just for the youth among us. That's not something just for parents among us. That's something for our entire congregation to take part in. So we strongly encourage you to check your emails for that RSVP link and to please let us know that you'll be here that day. And, you know, there's going to be a taco lunch. So why not come? Instead of Taco Tuesday, we're going to do Taco Sunday, and it's going to be great. So we would love to see you all there. So with that, I again welcome you to the UU Congregation of Danbury. And now is the time for us to take a moment to pause and to greet each other. If you're here in the fellowship hall, please say hello to those around you. If you're online, drop a note in the chat box and greet each other. To bring us back together, let's all find hymn number 298 if you're using the hardcover hymnal, or find the words up on the screen. And that is Wake Now My Senses. And now I'll invite everyone to join us in our chalice lighting affirmation. And I'm going to invite Peter Horton to come up and light the chalice for us. Peter has graciously volunteered his time for several years now as a member of the Board of Trustees. He sings in the choir. He is also our stewardship lead for our upcoming stewardship campaign. And we will all be hearing more from Peter in the coming weeks. So please join me with the words. You'll see them on the screen. They're also printed in the order of service. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and justice is its light. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek and speak the truth in love, to help one another and celebrate life.
It is good to be together. I want to invite you to join me in the children's affirmation. The words are on the screen as well as in the order of service. We are Unitarian Universalists. We are people with open minds, loving hearts, and helping hands. We care for the earth and each other. The sermon today comes in two parts. The first part is a story about a fish who decided not to swim. So this is indeed half my sermon. Here it is. Once upon a time, deep in a forest where everything was green from the ground to the canopy above, there was a river. And in that river lived an arowana fish, who we will just call Fish. This fish is actually bigger than what you see here. I just didn't have paper large enough to print on. Fish lived a good life. The water was neither too cold nor too hot. The river was beautiful. Fish enjoyed playing hide and seek in the plants at the surface of the water and spent each day calmly hunting for food. Fish had a lovely, graceful glide that attracted the attention of every visitor to the water. One of the river's daily visitors, a howler monkey, who we will just call Monkey, made a point to find fish at each visit.
Fish! Fish!
Monkey would greet Fish enthusiastically.
Tell me a story from your day.
And each day, Fish would tell a new story about food caught cleverly or new and ever prettier pockets of plants discovered in the water. Then Fish would say to Monkey, "Now it's your turn." And Monkey would tell a story that took place in the tops of trees. A story about what had been seen from above or something funny a friend did to another up in those trees. During one such visit, Monkey began a story.
So we were climbing to the top of the tree.
And Fish suddenly stopped Monkey. "Wait a minute," Fish said. "What's climbing?"
You know, like when you pull yourself to get up higher.
Fish thought for a moment and finally said, "Oh, I think I know. When the river floods and the trees are in the water, I move like this up the trees." Fish began to move upward, gliding against a branch, belly to tree limb, showing Monkey how it was done.
Nah, not like that. I'm talking about using your arms to pull yourself up like this.
Monkey demonstrated with a nearby tree. "Oh," said Fish matter-of-factly. "Well, I don't have arms, so I guess I don't climb."
Oh, I bet you could learn. My mom always says you can do anything if you set your mind to it.
Said Fish thoughtfully. "I'm very clever. I guess I could probably find a way to pull myself up into a tree without arms."
That's the spirit. Don't they call arowanas water monkeys?
"Well, yes," said Fish, feeling a boost of confidence. "They call us that because we jump into the air and catch insects off of tree limbs. But speaking of that, I'm getting hungry." Monkey smiled at Fish.
That's perfect. If you can catch an insect, you can catch a tree limb. And if you can catch a tree limb, you can learn to climb. You can use your mouth and what do you call those?
Monkey stretched out a finger and pointed it at Fish's pectoral fin. "A fin," said Fish.
Right, a fin. Tomorrow, I'm going to teach you how to climb. Go get yourself some food and rest up. We've got a lot of work to do.
So that's what Fish did. Fish ate and Fish rested. Of course, when fish rest, they don't ever stop moving, and Fish was especially fidgety with excitement on this day. Finally, the next day came, and Monkey returned, howling from miles away.
Fish, oh fish, it's time for climbing school. I hope you're ready.
Fish swam to the water's edge to meet Monkey. When Monkey arrived, they found a tree with a branch that hung down low over the water.
Okay, can you grab one of the twigs off this branch?
"I think so," said Fish.
Good, then do it.
So Fish swam to the branch and launched gracefully into the air. Fish's mouth opened and grabbed hold of the branch just at the right moment.
Excellent, you're doing it.
But before those words had even left Monkey's mouth, Fish began to slide off the twig. Plop! Fish was back in the river. "Well," said Fish, only slightly deterred, I forgot that when I catch insects, I go right back into the water. Maybe I just have to break that habit first."
Good idea. That's your homework for the day. Keep practicing and remember, Never give up. You can do anything if you set your mind to it.
Then Monkey left. After Monkey was gone, Fish tried to practice, but soon Fish got hungry. Arowanas are big fish, and they usually eat all day long. I need to take a little break, Fish whispered. I'll come back later. But swimming around looking for food was hard work. And soon day turned to night and night turned to the next day.
Fish, oh fish.
Fish suddenly heard. Oh dear, it's Monkey, and I didn't get my homework done. Even so, Fish swam to the edge of the water and greeted Monkey with enthusiasm. Hello, Monkey.
Hello, Fish. Did you get your homework done?
Sort of.
Sort of? What do you mean? You either got it done or you didn't.
Well, I did practice, said Fish. I practiced all I could, but I ran out of time because I needed to eat.
What?
There's always time. Oh, sorry. What? Monkey yelped.
There's always time to eat later. I told you to keep practicing.
Monkey then sighed and quieted.
Okay, we'll just have to start where we left off.
And so they did. And every day for many weeks, they did the same. Fish's homework only ever got sort of done. But Fish was trying, and Monkey kept trying to get Fish to try. The trouble was, the whole project was a lot harder than either thought it would be. One day, in exasperation, Monkey howled.
Fish, I am trying to stay patient, but you are just not trying.
I am trying, Fish cried back. I'm doing all that I can. It isn't easy to climb with a mouth and some fins. In fact, it's super hard. You just have to give me more time.
But Fish, I am giving you time, but you don't use your time to practice. I watch and see from the trees how most of your day you're hunting.
I'm just so hungry, Fish began to cry. All this climbing takes time and then I don't eat. And all I want to do is catch food.
That sounds very lazy, just eating all day like that.
Monkey said coldly. Oh, but it's not, Fish argued. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Getting food takes time and work for me. I just don't know if I have it in me to keep trying to learn to climb.
Fish, practically everyone I know but you can climb. I'm positive you can do it. You just have to work a little harder. I'll tell you what. Maybe if you can take a break from all the swimming and eating for just a few days, we can focus totally on climbing. Then you can get it over with, learn what you're supposed to, and then get back to all your eating.
Take a break from swimming and eating? Fish exclaimed with quiet surprise. I mean, I guess if I can just get this over with, it would be worth it. So they agreed. On that day, Fish did not eat. In the water, Fish barely swam, only moved really the way fish do when they rest. Except Fish also spent the rest of the day launching into the air, grabbing hold of a twig and trying mightily to get from that twig onto a twig, from that twig onto a larger branch. Try after try, and Fish kept coming back down into the water. Plop. When Monkey returned, howling,
Fish, oh fish.
Fish could barely hear the call. Hunger was very distracting.
At least you're trying now. Keep at it. I'll be back in a few days to see your progress.
But with each day without food, Fish grew weaker. Fish barely even moved. Sometimes Fish would simply float to the top of the water, unable to come back down. In one particularly sad moment such as this, Turtle came by.
Fish, are you okay?
Fish did not answer, though Fish's caudal fin flapped a bit in response.
What on earth happened to you? And what can I do to help?
Turtle saw a small fish traveling by.
Maybe a bite to eat would help. Here, open your mouth.
Fish's mouth opened just a bit, but it was enough for Turtle to push the small fish in. Then Turtle went to find several more fish, shoving each into Fish's mouth. As Fish ate, Fish's fins began to move a little more,
Huh, this looks like it's the ticket.
said Turtle, still hunting for small fish.
Are you hurt? How come you haven't been eating?
Turtle asked, but Fish still did not have the strength to reply. Fish was moving more, but not swimming,
Egret.
mumbled Turtle reflexively, seeing the giant bird in the water walking toward them both. Then Turtle realized what was about to happen.
Egret.
Turtle said more loudly. Fish did not move.
Egret!
Shouted Turtle, and with that, Fish suddenly snapped to attention and swam toward a plant in which to hide. Turtle followed.
Fish, I am worried about you. What happened?
Fish began to speak very slowly. I had to stop swimming to learn how to climb,
Learn how to climb?
chuckled
What
Turtle.
on earth do you mean?
Monkey was teaching me to climb, Fish said, and we decided that I should take a break from all my eating and swimming to learn. Turtle said very seriously.
Who climbs?
Monkey and I thought I could climb if I put my mind to it and tried hard enough, Fish whispered. Monkey said, you can do anything if you put your mind to it. And it reminded me that I am clever enough to find a way. I suppose if Monkey could do it, so can I.
And that's why you stopped swimming and stopped eating fish?
Turtle asked.
I am not sure that I understand the value of learning to climb.
Fish was silent, thinking for a moment. I guess I wanted to do it so I could say that I did it, and so I could experience all the things Monkey is talking about all the time. Turtle looked softly at Fish.
Fish, I think I understand. And I suppose it will be disappointing if you don't do it?
Fish looked off in the distance. It wasn't my dream or anything, but it seems like it's important to give it a good try. Fish paused, then added, since I can do anything if I try hard enough. With this, Turtle swam to the edge of the water and crawled onto land.
Look, Fish,
Said Turtle.
I can come live up here on land for a bit. Can you do that if you just try?
Well, Fish said, I can live for a little while without water, but not nearly as long as you.
Right. So you can't do anything.
Fish looked sadly at Turtle. I guess not. But Turtle was not sad with Fish.
Fish, I can't climb either. Even if I try really hard, I'd never be able to get all the way to the treetops like Monkey. My body just isn't made for that.
Fish's eyes darted away from Turtle. Oh, I'm sorry,
I am not sorry, Fish.
Turtle replied and quickly added.
I can't do anything, but what I can do is important.
Fish thought about everything Turtle could do. Then Fish remembered what Turtle had just done. Actually, Turtle, Fish offered, you were just able to swim out and save me. I don't think Monkey could do that. But that is what you can do, and it was very important to me. But then Fish paused. I haven't saved anybody, though. Turtle did not even blink.
Do you know why I found you, Fish? Why I found you in time to save you?
No, answered Fish. Turtle explained.
I found you because I missed your graceful glide and I came looking for it. You being you is enough. Please don't stop swimming and eating again.
And Fish never did stop swimming or eating again, because what Fish could do was important. And so ends the story. Let's sing this little light of mine together.
Little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine,
welcome our bodies into this space, just as they are, and the unique hearts that beat inside them. In the poetry of Reverend Niñan Soto, people are not long division problems. Their resources almost never divide evenly into their concerns, which is how we end up with remainders of fear and anger, and such tentative beauty, having only recently been liberated from the imposition of thousands of inapplicable shames. People do not imagine being messy and unresolved until their broken hearts remain unmentionable. Eventually, point 3 repeating awkwardly at first, and then with an intonation and rhythm meant to simulate being just fine. No problem. People are not long division problems. You cannot, should you, meaning well, try this, fix or solve them. Reminder, they will almost never come out even. What you can do is be a welcome in a wounded and suspicious world. You can recognize the person as who they are. You can assume that without the gift of their humanity, even when it is complicated, none of the sum of us can arrive at the answer of who we are meant to be, collective and whole. So ends the poem. And so we turn to being a welcome for one another in a wounded and suspicious world. At this time in our service, we hold together in community the joys and sorrows, all of the milestones that week by week mark our lives. If you have a joy or sorrow that you wish to acknowledge but not share aloud, I'll invite you to come forward in a moment and drop a stone in the bowl of water. Candle for these milestones, both those held in silence and shared aloud, and for the joys and sorrows of our world community. May compassion flow into you and through you and from you. May it do so during the silent meditation to come and always, as we in our messy and complicated humanity and lives full of great joy and beauty, of job potentials and resources shared, as well as lives full of concerns and deep sorrows. May we strive to be a welcome that helps us in community become who we are meant to be, collective and whole. We'll enter and exit the silence with the sound of the bell. Amen, Ashe, and blessed be. Let's sing a hymn of meditation, number 396. I know this rose will open.
I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open.
One of the risks of starting my reflection with a story I'm going to tell you shortly about Mr. Rogers and early Saturday morning parenting shows is that because I have my religious educator hat on and am here at, as your director of religious education specifically for children and youth, some of you who do not have children and youth might decide that this sermon is not for you. And I don't want that to happen for at least two reasons. First being that this sermon is about growth, about learning as a human being, not just something that children do. Just like the old oak tree in my backyard, we eventually reach a time in our lifespan when we are done getting taller. But the experiences of our lives continue to shape us. Like a tree grows rings, we don't lose our experiences, but we gain new ones that shape layers of meaning on top of them. The brain has way more plasticity, the ability to change and adapt than we once thought. Our body minds have an exceptional design for this. We are each still growing, however many rings we already have on our metaphorical trees. By the way, with sincere apologies to those of you who do not listen to NPR, did anyone here who listens to NPR catch this week's On Point episode on the new third act of life, or really the expanding of life's middle stage? No, I didn't catch all of it, but I do hope to go back and have a listen because there is so much rich material there for continued growth and learning through the lifespan. The second reason that I don't want people to hear about Mr. Rogers and early morning Saturday parenting TV shows and think this sermon is not for them is that growth isn't just something we do as animals of the earth that we are, but as communities, including as congregational communities. On the Unitarian Universalist Association website, there's a resource in the Leader Lab that came from a book called The Way Churches Grow, and it defines 5 types of congregational growth. And I'll share them with you just briefly. One type, organic growth, I guess the soil that nourishes us, is the growth of organizational structures, formal or informal, the growth of nutrients that nourish the community. Another type of community growth is maturational growth, spiritual deepening in community, the spreading of both roots and branches as religious imagination grows. A third type is incarnational growth, the growth of a community's shared expressions of its values in the world, the growth of its ability to live out its values, not just within its own walls and hopefully within its own walls, but also elsewhere. Maybe this is something like the seeds a tree drops, which is one of the ways a forest can come from just a few trees. Then there is growing in connections, the increasing network of connections between congregation and other congregations, denominational bodies, interfaith organizations, and community organizations. I'm imagining this as an interlocking network of roots underneath the ground. This system, by the way, that interlocking root system, is so incredible that it has mycelium, the threading that makes up mushrooms, communicating between trees. Naima Penniman, an educator who says she is future foraging rooted in her ancestors' brilliance, talks about this network in ways that brings alive the tremendous importance of this kind of growth. Reflecting on oak trees staying upright through hurricanes, she says, instead of digging its roots deep and solitary into the earth, the oak tree grows its roots wide and interlocks with other oak trees in the surrounding area. And you can't bring down 100 oak trees bound beneath the soil. How do we survive the unnatural disasters of climate change, environmental injustice, over-policing, mass imprisonment, militarization, economic inequality, corporate globalization, and displacement? We must connect underground, my people. In this way, we shall survive. End quote. And of course, one of these 5 types is numerical growth within the community itself, like the physical growth of a singular tree when newcomers become oldcomers and still new newcomers join. While this service today is not about congregational growth, I am aware I'm sharing my reflections with you at a time when we at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury are considering possibilities for the future of this congregation's ministries for children and youth, ways of growing together in those ministries in any or all 5 areas. Though I caution that just as a child goes through developmental stage focused more on 1 or 2 areas of development at a time, something that's within their reach in that particular moment, a ripe moment for that particular kind of growth. Communities do not typically experience developmental readiness for growth in all 5 areas at once. And the reason we need to discern together possibilities for the future based on where we are developmentally is not because I'm abdicating responsibility or out of ideas. As many of you know, we have been experimenting with a host of different ideas in these ministries over the last couple of years as we faced a new era of family life and a new set of ministry needs. And I definitely have my own hopes for you. But because a ministry that is yours as a congregation must have your own vision, your ideas, your energy, and your investment in it. And importantly, it cannot belong to the children and their families alone, for one thing, because as many of you know, the families in this congregation are aging out of being the families with children and youth. So if you plan to continue ministering to children and youth in one way or another, whether within these walls or within the larger community, when in another 6 or 7 years, this group of children you have has almost entirely aged into young adulthood, the people who will have planted seeds for that ministry, who will nourish seedlings for that, will not be the people whose children will receive that ministry. When a ministry for children and youth is chugging along, it can belong to it can belong to just a director and a limited group of volunteers who commit energy to it. But when a congregation is building a new ministry, it's got to be congregation wide, like any building project. So Sam's already announced about the March 12th event. I had some extra notes in case you didn't hammer the importance of your attendance home well enough. But I hope that you will come. It is thinking about and imagining the myriad of possibilities for this ministry, your ministry for children and youth, that first inspired me to reflect on growth in this service. Because as an educator of 20 years, having done this kind of educational ministry for people from cradle to grave, I think in our culture, we have some distorted ideas about what learning and growth is that limit our imaginations for what our ministries have to offer, not just for children, but for the whole lifespan. Worse, and this is the implication for us all, I think these distorted ideas about growth limit our participation and strivings for liberation among all people. So begging your forgiveness for taking a detour into some church business, let me get to telling you about that Mr. Rogers story in the early Saturday morning parenting shows. For a good chunk of my childhood, we didn't have a TV in my home. But sometime when I was maybe between like 3rd and 5th grade, a neighbor who was moving gave my family her TV. Now, this is back when TVs were chonky and heavy, right? But my parents still decided that the place to put the TV was in their bedroom closet. And that when there was a show worth watching, they would go get the TV out of their closet and bring it into the living room for us all to watch. So I never had that Saturday morning cartoon experience my wife had, except when we were staying with others. But eventually my parents did tire of carrying the TV through our apartment and started leaving it for longer and longer periods in the living room until finally it became a permanent fixture. And this is how my own Saturday morning TV ritual came to be by the time I was in the 7th grade. A year I'm sure about only by having looked up when these shows aired. I must have stumbled on the whole ritual by accident during a bout of insomnia. We couldn't have had more than a few stations available to us, but on one of them, starting maybe around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, there was a series of parenting shows, including Lisa Gibbons' Growing Up Together and Dr. T. Barry Brazelton's What Every Baby Knows. Afterward, if I was still awake, the morning shows for really young children would begin. My favorite was Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. None of these television shows were designed for somebody my age. But in the same way I imagine the tradition of snuggling on a couch for Saturday morning sleepy giggles over cartoons must have soothed some kids, my Saturday morning ritual of parenting shows and time with Mr. Rogers soothed me. And all these shows were critical in my development. I was a neurodivergent kid in a world designed for neurotypicals. The way I explain it to my neurodivergent kids now is that we are running Macs in a world designed for PCs. And some of us try to run our Macs like PCs to get by. And instead of getting excited about what Macs can do, we end up disappointed that they don't work the way they ought to run when we run them as PCs. The parenting shows and Mr. Rogers turned out to be kind of a reboot for my system because they promoted a compassionate self-understanding. I wonder if you can imagine or think of, have a memory of a time when your own compassionate self-understanding was promoted. Learning about why toddlers melt down as their skills and coping strategies aren't enough to keep them regulated from the overwhelm of life helped me understand why I would melt down when trying to run my Mac in a PC world. And this was all followed by Mr. Rogers, who assured me that I was okay better than okay, in fact, but a spark of goodness in the world, and coached me through some of what makes life hard. I want to invite us to turn our imaginations, at least in religious community, toward that kind of growth that comes from a reach for what is life-affirming, life-giving, for those things that resist the death-dealing ideologies and practices of the extractive economies that shape us. As a religious community that affirms the value of life and has voted to dismantle systems of oppression, it is not our role to practice the most moral version of the ideologies, systems, and structures of the society in which we are situated. We have learned that while we live in a white supremacist culture where racism undergirds everything. Given that this is the case, instead of striving for a more moral version of the culture in which we live, our role is to play a part in the ecosystem of justice makers, in accessing the kind of imagination that can take us into a more liberatory future. I think it was Henry David Thoreau, but could not find the exact quote or where he said it. But I think it was he who said that when we want to make a path through a forest, we must traverse it again and again. So too must we traverse imaginations and ideas that we wish to grow into. So growth is not passive, but a movement. Vines creep, flowers open, and we humans must act. I'm actually going to end it there. So let me find my last notes. Oh, I do want to leave a note, though. The story that I shared with you earlier today. I wrote that story for a neurodivergent kid in my own life when he started saying that school was making him feel like he was, and I won't use the word because I consider it ableist. It starts with an S and ends with a D. Our systems of education are designed, of course, for neurotypical kids, but I'm not even really sure that they're designed for the human spirit at all. And I don't have any desire to replicate them in any way. There are many famous educators who have done wonderful work on the problems with the system. And I will certainly bring this back another time for you. But I just want to leave you with that idea of an imagination, growing an imagination together for liberatory possibilities and how we might travel those paths again and again together in community and what the possibilities are there. So let's sing our final hymn, right? That's what's next. I lost my page once I. Thank you. Thank you.
At this point in the service, before we wrap up, we will pause to take our weekly offering in that spirit of growth and learning and expansion. We gratefully receive what our members and friends are willing to offer. These weekly offerings are needed to supplement the annual pledges that we normally receive from our members and friends. So as the plate passes you virtually, through the link we have or the QR code or here in the fellowship hall, we encourage you to give what you can. But if you are a new visitor with us, please don't feel obligated. The plate can pass you by because your presence here is your gift to us. And at this point, we will extinguish our chalice, and I invite you to join me in the words that you'll find on the screen in the order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world until we are together again. So now, please join us in our hymn of celebration, which is number 338. If you're using the hardcover hymnal, the words will also be on the screen.
I seek the spirit of a child who leads them gradually, the child who sings the world of light and greets the morning sun with glee. Children are real beyond, oh Lord. May I see joys a gift to our hearts. I seek the freedom of a child who loves instinctively, who lights our day with just a smile and shines that light on all we see. Children are real beyond all fears. May I see hope's a gift to our tears. I seek the wonder of a child who sees delightfully, now clouds and clouds, now golden sun, imaginations true and free. Children are real beyond all lies. May I see face a gift to our eyes.
May you go home today feeling strong like an oak tree, roots deep, deep down and wide and interlocking with others. And may you also go with branches open. So may it be. Ashe. Amen. And blessed be.